Holy City Center Radio, it is episode 176, and I am your host, Christian Sanger. Today is Friday, September 29th, 2023. It's Friday, like I just said. I hope you're as excited as I am for the weekend, but I also hope you had a very good week. And I am shocked to say that the next time I talk to y'all Monday, and obviously the rest of the week next week, is going to be October. September just flew on by. We are just getting right into the depths of fall. Summer is officially over as far as the calendar is concerned, although we still have some pretty good weather here. I am enjoying a little bit of the cooling off. Still pretty warm, so I don't need to be bundled up when I go do things, but certainly enjoying just a little bit cooler weather. Not so balmy when I go outside and go to do things. So definitely enjoying it. I hope you are as well. Lots to get to on this Friday edition as we close out another week here in the Holy City. First, a couple updates of some things I did this week. On Wednesday, I attended the Charleston Mayoral Forum. This one was put on by Pay It Forward Charleston, a great nonprofit in town that sprung up during the pandemic. They raised funds to help all the food and beverage workers who were out of work during that time, and they're continuing to do work in case something else comes up, whether it's something affecting the whole industry or maybe a hardship for a particular member of the community. So definitely going strong, and they'll have a nice safety net in some capacity for food and beverage workers going forward in case anything happens. And so unsurprisingly, this forum, as most are, whoever the host is, questions are skewed towards whoever the host is. So in this case, there was a lot of questions about food and beverage, particularly downtown, as far as living wages, affordable housing. Would they support removing tips to have a higher hourly rate for employees and things of that nature? Of course, there also talks about parking and transportation and all that. So it's cool that these forums have hosts that are able to present their own questions, because instead of them just getting the same, 4 or 5 questions over and over again, you get a little bit of a variety. But I was excited. This is the first one I attended in person this year, and the folks at Pay It Forward Charleston had asked if I would live stream it. I didn't have any professional equipment, but I was, yeah, sure, I'm happy to go with my laptop if you don't mind that's as good as it's going to get. And they said, no, we just want there to be something that anyone who can't attend, because it was from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on a weekday, we just want an option for people. And so the video, the live stream video is still up on my Facebook page, facebook.com/holycitycenter. You can watch it. The sound, unfortunately, isn't the best because, again, I was just using my laptop with no external equipment. And some candidates were a little bit quieter than others, even though there was a microphone. Some just didn't really hold it very close to their mouths and weren't super loud. And so it's a little tough, but there are captions. And the captions, when I was there and watching it live on my phone just to see how the video quality was and things, they were fairly accurate. There's some silly mistakes here and there, but considering it's not a live person doing the captions, they're just auto-generated, I was pretty impressed. So you can at least get a taste of what that forum was like. You can still see that over on the Holy City Center Facebook page. Wednesday continued to be busy. A little bit later, I had some fun things to do. First, I went on over the bridge to Mount Pleasant. Well, actually, a couple bridges from where I was coming from, but went into Mount Pleasant to Crush Yard, which I've talked about in this podcast. Had an interview with the chef probably over a year ago now. It's been a long time. This business has been hoping to open for months and months. I think they were originally shooting for January of this year, and you know how these things go sometimes with restaurants and permits and everything else, but they're finally opening their doors. If you don't remember, not only is this a place where you can purchase food, but this is the one that has pickleball courts inside the venue. I had seen artist renderings, so I had a general idea of what this was going to be like, but I was surprised when I got there. It looked really, really good. Yes, there are indeed pickleball courts, I think 4. Normal size. Actually, it's probably even more than that now I'm thinking about it. But they had people there playing. And in the middle, so the courts are kind of like on the side. In the middle is a seating area, which was actually 2 levels. I like the second level better. You could just get a better overall feel of whatever court you decided to watch. You can see a little bit better up there. And there's really comfortable chairs. The furniture and decor was really nice. and there's plenty of TVs, and all sports stuff is on there. So it's kind of like a sports bar, but there's also live sports in front of you with people playing pickleball. So it's pretty cool. It's a little bit far out in Mount Pleasant for those who don't live in that area. If you're coming from James Island or downtown West Ashley, North Charleston or whatever, it's a little bit deeper into Mount Pleasant. It's not just right over the Ravenel. And but if you're in that area or don't mind maybe a little bit longer drive than you're used to, it's a pretty cool venue. And again, this is just for the folks who are in that area. I know how people are sometimes about, wait, I got to drive where in Mount Pleasant? Oh, I got to go where on name other city? That is not a long drive at all, but we're a little spoiled with everything being so close to us. Really cool venue, especially if you're in the pickleball or interested in it. They offer memberships. You can also just sign up online to play on particular days without a membership, and you can get all the details on their website. The food was really good. I had a few options, and there was you just try little bites of things. Hamburger was really good. They had like a fried pimento cheese ball that was amazing, and they have taps where places like Bay Street Beer Garden and Pour Tap House on King Street, the ones where you can pour yourself, you load up some money and then you get charged per ounce, which is kind of a neat thing. You could maybe do a little sample of something if you're not too sure you want to pay for a full pint glass or whatever. So lots of fun. Definitely a unique venue for our area. There may be others in other parts of the country as pickleball has just gotten more and more popular. But think of it like other places that combine sports with food, like a bowling alley. It's no different than that in the sense that you can order food and also play or watch live sport of some kind. And the food was good. So when I say bowling alley, I know sometimes when we think of like those kind of older bowling alleys, the food's not always so great, although the alley in downtown Charleston has awesome bar food. But these are high quality. I really enjoyed the snacks and food, and it was just a cool place. Unfortunately, I couldn't spend a ton of time there. Was able to check it out, get the gist of it, talk to some friends, and then I had to head to North Charleston to the Performing Arts Center because I had tickets to see Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse live in concert. So what is that? So Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is that 2018 movie, I believe, animated movie from Marvel, of course, about Spider-Man. The Miles Morales version of Spider-Man, for those who pay attention to such things. Awesome movie. I know some people, when they hear animated, they're like, eh. And I know some people are kind of sick of the superhero thing, but is really a fantastic movie. Just visually has a great soundtrack, and it's an entertaining story as well. But this live in concert thing, you may have seen similar events, like for instance, Harry Potter and Star Wars are the ones that tend to tour the country, where you're watching this movie and there's a live orchestra, in varying amounts of musicians in these orchestras that play music live. So they basically are providing a live soundtrack. I've always wondered what those events would be like, and I'm happy to report it was pretty fun. So basically, yes, if there is some kind of music on screen, they might add a little bit of a twist to it, maybe fill in parts or just play exactly what's on screen. So it just kind of amplifies it and just makes it, you just feel it a little bit more than if you're watching it at a TV, on TV, because obviously you're right there in person and the orchestra is right in front of you. Sometimes if there was no music, they would add a little bit in the scenes where it felt appropriate. And in addition to, musicians, they also had a DJ there because the movie has some like rap and hip hop songs. And so when those would be on, he might be scratching or something. So he was adding a little bit of his own flavor to it. So it was pretty cool. I really enjoyed it. There was a wide range of people, everything from young kids up to adults like myself. And it was a fun thing. And yeah, if a movie comes around that you're into or have wanted to see, it's definitely a unique and fun thing to do, and I definitely recommend it. Tickets usually aren't too bad either, unlike some concerts that come into town that can be a little pricey. These events tend to be fairly affordable, and of course that varies depending on which movie and what company is touring and all that, but really enjoyed it, and like I said, definitely recommend it. But enough about that. Let's get into the latest news. On the last podcast, I spent a lot of time talking about the drama that was the Charleston County School District school board meeting. There hasn't really been many updates. Superintendent Dr. Eric Gallien has released a statement for someone who easily could have just gone all in on that 5-member faction of the board that voted to suspend him with pay or administrative leave with pay, whatever the official term is that they're using. He did not do that. Basically said, hey, there's an investigation. I welcome it. This is how the process is supposed to work. And if you don't remember, the suspension came because there was some kind of complaint. We don't know what it is because it was all talked about in executive session. And they decided to investigate this complaint. Totally normal. Then that 5-member Moms for Liberty backed faction of the school board decided they wanted to suspend the superintendent during the investigation with pay. And of course, because as we discussed, they have the majority and they vote together. That's exactly what happened. And most folks in attendance at the meeting, as well as the other members of the board, thought it was wildly inappropriate amongst, this whole executive session thing and everything else. So despite all that, welcome the investigation. If there's a complaint, it should be looked at. I look forward to that being completed and moving forward, those kinds of things. Again, he could have easily just gone scorched earth, and he didn't. So props to him. And then obviously the whole scorched earth approach would not have helped him by any means. He may have wanted to do that, but, just kind of kept his cool. The statement was good. Someone who's representing him, who spoke to, I think it was ABC News on the condition of anonymity, had similar things to say. And outside of that, local leaders, politicians have all pretty unanimously, at least the ones that have released statements, have condemned what this board has done. You can see I have most of those statements on my website. You can also, look them up on other news organizations as well. So no big updates, but it just seems that the things I was saying in the last episode is kind of what a big chunk of this community was thinking as well, that this was inappropriate. They obviously have a political agenda that has no concern for the children at all. And they are unserious people who are just in this role. It's seemingly to own the libs. That's what governing has become in some instances. We don't really care about helping people. We just want to do things that upset the liberals. That's just, it is what it is. And that's what we're dealing with. So no big updates, but just wanted to touch on that in case you were wondering. Of course, when there are any substantial updates, I'll be sure to share them with you. We had a very scary and confusing situation that as of this recording, thankfully is over in the sense of danger to the community, but there are still a lot of questions that I'm sure will be answered in the coming days and weeks. So as of this recording, there is a press conference scheduled for the situation that happened on Johns Island, which I will get into in a moment. So there could be some details that I left out, some updates, or maybe some information that has been clarified or whatever. So that is why if there was some big information that came out, or if I said something like, oh, no one knows X, Y, or Z, but you actually do know it by Friday morning, that is why. Because as of this recording, it's still very much an ongoing thing as far as, again, the investigation itself. So what am I talking about for those who don't know? A man on Johns Island whose name was Ernest Robert Burbidge III caused a disturbance. According to Charleston County Sheriff Kristen Graziano, on Wednesday, he had been drinking. He got into an argument with his girlfriend, and somehow that led to him randomly shooting a gun. That random shooting actually ended up hitting a passenger in a car who was driving by. I mean, talk about the worst luck ever. Just happened to be driving by at that exact moment, and the passenger was struck. They ended up being driven to the hospital. They were not an intended target. It was totally random. So again, just horrible luck for that person. Unfortunately, we don't, as of this recording, I don't have an update. Nothing's been provided about their condition. I'm hoping because they drove to the hospital that they are okay and will make a recovery. But we, again, as of this recording, just no updates as far as their condition. But the situation definitely did not start there. That was just the beginning. So obviously police are called. They head out to Johns Island. And it led to a situation where people around that area were asked to shelter in place and not leave their homes. And that was yesterday, I think late afternoon and into the evening. And it stretched on. Sorry, I'm saying yesterday, Wednesday. I'm recording this on Thursday. So started on Wednesday, stretched into Wednesday evening and into Thursday. So that's all we really knew at that time. And then around 10 o'clock on Wednesday evening, CCSO deputies posted on social media, continuing to urge residents near Mary Ann Point and Chisholm Road to stay indoors after a second gunshot victim was reported. That victim was actually a Charleston County master deputy by the name of James Gilbreth. Thankfully, despite being shot in the head, the injury is considered non-threatening, and he's expected to make a recovery. Now, that's what we have right now. Hopefully, it won't be a long recovery, but very good news that despite being shot in his head, the deputy Gilbreth, that injury is non-life threatening. Now, Deputy Gilbreth was shot, according to Graziano, as deputies were using a warrant to search a house where Burbridge was known to occupy. However, they then received information about his location. They learned that he was standing in the yard of an acquaintance, the yard of an acquaintance's house, and that was about half a mile away. So they encountered him when they got down there. He had what Graziano called a long gun or a rifle. He fled into the woods and took cover, as did the police. As the deputies began to bring out an armored vehicle, Burbridge opened fire. The vehicle was struck several times, and that is when one of the deputies, again, Master Deputy James Gilbreth, was shot. And again, as of this recording, non-life-threatening injuries. That's the extent of the update we have on his condition. But again, good news so far for that. So that was a very scary situation, I'm sure, especially for the folks who lived in that area and had to stay in their homes, having no idea what exactly was going on or what could occur. But obviously, we're all very glad that the situation is over. And how did it end? Well, we don't know the exact details as of this recording, but Burbridge is deceased, according to the Charleston County Sheriff's Office. So, again, they had a press conference scheduled. I recorded this before that press conference, so I'm sure there's more details about how he died, although I'm sure we can make assumptions. And maybe we'll get some more details about the situation. But that's the latest on what happened on Johns Island as of this recording. Again, if there's any substantial updates, I will share them with you next week. But again, just happy that this scary situation has resolved itself over in Johns Island. Governor Henry McMaster is elated, or at least it seems that way, because the state can finally kill people legally again. That's right. A situation we wondered when this would pick up again, but according to Henry McMaster and the South Carolina Department of Corrections, they informed the South Carolina Supreme Court that the department is now prepared to resume executions by lethal injection. Obviously, my comment before is a little tongue-in-cheek, but for a governor who always claims to be so pro-life in a state that does the same, were very upset that they could not execute inmates, very upset that they could not go through with that. We've been over this before. The short story, of course, is that, and this is not unique to South Carolina, drug companies did not want to have their name associated with killing people, the ones that provide lethal injection drugs. And so a lot of them stopped selling to states. However, some states, including South Carolina, enacted what are called shield laws, which prevents the name of the companies that provide the drugs from getting out to the public. South Carolina passed theirs earlier this year after a push from McMaster, again, because he just wanted the state to kill people so badly. And now that has happened, they have secured drugs that are necessary to continue executions by lethal injection. McMaster took office back in 2017. I know it feels so much longer than that. And pretty much from that day, he's been calling on the General Assembly to pass those shield laws that I mentioned. And it finally went through earlier this year. It was eventually signed by McMaster back on May 12th. And so then the Department of Corrections continued its efforts to actually secure the drugs necessary and finally ended up doing so. So last I saw, any people that are on death row, no dates have been set for executions, but that the ball is rolling as the state will be able to do that now. And you might remember there was a little bit of a hiccup because state law said that anyone on death row had to choose their method of execution, and the options were lethal injection or the electric chair. Because the state was out of drugs, inmates didn't have an option, so they couldn't choose. And because the law was written that way, the state couldn't carry out executions. They tried to enact the firing squad. You remember that? They went through the whole process of even getting equipment and securing a location for that to happen so that there would be an option again and they could continue executions here in South Carolina. Well, now they also have the drugs again for lethal injection, so they can kill people in one of three ways. And now they have a choice of one of those three ways. So congratulations, Governor McMaster. Your dream of having the state be able to execute people again has come true. Wish I had better news for you, but don't worry. The last story is at least a good one, because this one, not great either. Police are investigating after homeowners in Mount Pleasant awoke on Tuesday morning to find flyers that contained anti-Semitic messages that were just, littered on their driveways, on their porches, wherever it may be. These messages were distributed across several neighborhoods, including Carolina Park, Charleston National, and Tupelo. This is according to multiple local media reports. A spokesperson for the Mount Pleasant Police Department said that the incident was documented and that an investigation is underway. There hasn't been any updates since Tuesday about who may have done this, but obviously a disgusting situation. Local media, a couple did share some images from the flyers and they they blocked out some things that, they couldn't show. Someone sent me pictures via DM of these flyers, and, any type of racism, anti-Semitism, sexism, whatever ism, any type is horrific and terrible and has no place in this world. But these were particularly egregious and disgusting, and I'm not going to share. There's no point to it. Just know that it's as bad as you would think it would be. Probably worse, actually, because I'm sure most of you are not monsters. Mayor Will Haney came out forcefully against this whole thing, saying there's no place for hate in our community, and then went on to say to whoever distributed the vulgar anti-Semitic flyers overnight at the time of Yom Kippur, no less, you failed. We are responding with love and concern for those you targeted and with disgust for your kind of hatred. So props to Mayor Haney coming out so forcefully against it. And, we're talking about this, and it may seem like who cares about these schmucks who did this, but it is important to know these people are in our community. They're trying to spread their hate to people. It's always important in my mind to talk about these things, but it's also important because there's been a rise in these types of incidents. According to data collected by the Anti-Defamation League, anti-Semitic incidents have surged by 193% across South Carolina. That was in last year, 2022. 193% rise. If you pay any attention to toxic online culture, social media, what some politicians have said, dog whistles, all that, none of this should be a surprise. There's so many conspiracy theories, lies, disinformation that attack, there's so many out there. They attack multiple communities, but we have seen some that have attacked the Jewish community writ large, not just specifically here in South Carolina. Much of that uptick the Anti-Defamation League found can be attributed to what they said was a high-volume increase in organized white supremacist propaganda activity. This includes the use of flyers, posters, stickers, banners, and graffiti that convey anti-Semitic views. And again, that's just live and in person in your community. That's not the horrific and disgusting things you can see online on any given moment. So terrible situation, disgusting. Hopefully these people are caught. I don't know exactly what they could be charged with exactly, especially since South Carolina doesn't have any hate crime legislation, one of only 2 states that does not, as I consistently remind you. But if you do have information, if you receive these pamphlets, maybe you have a video of the incident on a Ring doorbell or something, you're asked to contact the Mount Pleasant Police Department at 843-743-7200. Let's find these scumbags and hold them accountable. Okay, I promise good news to end out the show. And this is fun. It starts, though, with a reminder of a little bit of a bummer. The Sparrow and Park Circle over in North Charleston, you may remember they were closing at the end of the year. That very sad to see that. bar, Go. It's been a great place in the community, not just for folks looking for a drink in Park Circle and spot to hang out, but they also had live music, especially bands that you don't typically see, not just the bands themselves, but even genres of music that you don't normally see at the bigger venues, whether it was metal or rap or whatever. They had a nice eclectic mix of live performances that you can see there, but also stand-up comedy. It kind of became like a place for local comedians to hone their craft and get in front of audiences. They were really a pillar in the community as far as supporting the local comedy scene. So it was a bummer to hear they're closing and they were losing that space. Well, thankfully, comedian Josh Bates, who helped with stand-up at the Sparrow, he has stepped up and has announced a new venture that he is working on with entrepreneur Rick Blind that will bring a combination bar and theater to 3324 Rivers Avenue in North Charleston. The new space, which is set to open in February, will include about 5,000 square feet of space divided between the bar, a 90-seat theater, a green room that doubles as a podcasting studio, as Josh Bates has a podcast. Actually, his podcast won the best podcast in the Charleston City Paper Best of Awards this last year. It's called Low Country Low Lives, or yes, Low Country Low Lives. So no surprise, they have the podcast studio there, and they're also going to have that forthcoming VIP area. So that's great to hear. A 90-seat theater, that's a nice venue to see local stand-ups, maybe some rising comedians on the national level that are touring and trying to raise their profile. That's a pretty good space, and I'm excited to hear that this is going to step up after the Sparrow closes. So we will continue to have places where we can see local comedians and whatever other acts they may bring. So excited for it. It's going to be called Wits End, and as I mentioned, it'll be on Rivers Avenue. The area that it's going to be opening in is across the street from the recently renovated Starlight Motor Inn, and will be next door to Jack Rabbit Philly's upcoming restaurant, King Barbecue. So it'll pretty exciting little area just with those three businesses alone. You're going to have Wits End, you're going to have King Barbecue, and then Starlight Motor Inn. So congratulations to Josh Bates and Rick Blind and local comedians, for that matter, that they're going to have a spot in February, assuming, again, permits and all that nonsense that businesses always seem to have to go through. Hopefully there won't be any holdups, and it will indeed be here as the new year begins. But definitely good news, and I'm excited to check out the new space once it opens. So that'll do it for this edition of Holy City Center Radio. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. If you're looking for something to do, just head to holycitycenter.com/events. You can actually do that any day, and you can see what is going on in town at that exact moment and every day going forward. I also have a weekend events post that's dedicated specifically to things going on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. You can see that throughout the weekend. I try to keep it up towards the top of the homepage so you don't have to go searching for it, although it's just right there in the bar, the little subcategory bar. Not hard to find, but I'd like to keep it easy for you guys. You're looking for plans. You don't have time to waste. And of course, you can stay up with any updates to the stories I talked about or anything else going on in town just by going to the website, holycitycenter.com. If you'd like to help spread this podcast, make it a little bit bigger here in town, there's several ways you can do so. Whatever platform you're currently listening to the show on, just go ahead and like the podcast, rate it. Whatever amount of stars you want to do. 5 is a great number, just FYI, but whatever you feel is appropriate. Leave a review if you'd like. It doesn't have to be long, it can be a couple sentences. Subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. All of that stuff also helps this podcast grow. If you want to take an extra step, you can pick up some Holy City Center merchandise at holycitycenter.com/shop, or you can sign up for a Patreon subscription tier at patreon.com/holycitycenter. I'm very thankful to all of you for listening, and extra thankful for those of you who have done some of those things I just mentioned. I really sincerely appreciate it. I don't know the names of everyone who's left reviews or star ratings or subscribe, but thank you to all of you who have. It really means a lot. And those of you who leave me feedback about episodes, thank you for that as well. It really tends to make my day to hear that you're enjoying what I'm doing, and it makes it all worth it, of course. Not that this is a big burden or anything. I'm having fun regardless, but it really does help out and make me feel good. So I really appreciate that. And a super extra big thank you to Lindsay Marie Collins, who produces each episode with LMC Sound System. And of course, the same to Tyler Boone, whose music you hear in each and every episode and probably hear playing below me right now. I like to test Lindsay out sometimes and throw her for a loop and see where she put that music in or soundbite or whatever. I'm sure it sounded pristine and perfect. All right, I'm wasting time because I'm just having fun chit-chatting and hearing my own voice. But enjoy your weekend. You won't have to hear from me until Monday. Until then, though, good night and good luck.